Everyone's all right though. Noel, you all right?
Right, man is on high soul. Leishan. I'm locked to what, bro. I'm at that age where, boy, you see, look at Matty out there. Matty eating Chris outside, you know.
No, but this conversation is going to be good, man, because I'm sick and tired of the Facebook.
Long term.
It's long.
Definitely.
The Facebook statuses and comments and stuff.
I definitely.
When you say the Facebook, I don't know. I don't know what you lot are talking about, right?
Oh, these conversations always come up on Facebook.
In general.
Yeah,
like,
it always comes up on conversation.
Yeah.
And obviously, it's just...
Alicia, you're following the wrong people.
The wrong people.
You're following the wrong people.
All the owner upon this chat, including Ryan. You as well, big all the owner. Ryan's
the instigator of most of these things.
Okay, but let's be honest though, yeah? Like, let's be honest. Really and truly, I haven't really said much in the past couple of years. I'm jumping on other people's posts, but I
think LA's cooled you down, bro.
It's the weather, man. It's the weather,
man. Life and LA's cooled you down, bro. Because there was a time when you jumped on everything.
You know what? There was. I can't lie. That was me.
We were like,
yeah. It's cool. It's come true.
Nah, do you know what? Ryan's actually been cool lately.
Lately.
And they cool him down, bro.
Time for that, innit? You're locked up now, married off and thing. You ain't got time.
Yeah. Well, that's part of the years. I'm not gonna lie. That's part of the years.
I was just annoyed that Ryan said that John P. Key won that battle, bro.
You know what? Yeah. Listen.
John P. Key didn't win.
Listen, it was a personal preference. It was a personal preference to me. But like I said, I know for Hez has got the bigger hits. I never denied that. I just feel like
I think John P. Key should have won, but he screwed himself.
Yeah, but again, Hez has got the bigger hits, but for me, I enjoyed hearing John's throwbacks more. And I think part of it is because I hear Hez's music all the time, and
100%.
The argument about the Hez and the Kirk thing, right? I think it's more about which songs carried into the church, right? Because the legacy of a song is about who sings it, right? So you could, like Kirk songs, there's very few of Kirk songs that carried into the church. We raise it on a Sunday morning, you know what I mean? Sunday morning song. Whereas Hez has got the most like that. And John P. Key's the quiet thing, innit? Smooth in the house, boy.
Right.
Smooth came in with entrance music.
That's right.
He's at church, isn't it?
That's so funny. Are you at church?
Yeah.
Oh, scene. My bad.
It's all good, bro.
But I'll talk a little bit, and then Matty can talk a little bit. This whole thing came about after I went on Facebook. I don't really go on Facebook that much these days. I'm more of an Instagram guy. But I went on and I saw this conversation ensue. Becky just come through as well, wicked. And I found it really, really interesting, the things that were being said and people's perspectives on it. And what I really liked was the honesty coming from people. It's like people had kind of lost the kind of, smokescreen is the wrong word, but the kind of filter, but not in a disrespectful way or anything, but people wanted to kind of get real about like the industry, music, how they feel about it, all the factors that go into said conversation about music, about songs, about UK gospel. And I noticed that Matty was very involved in it and was one of the instigators. And I really like Matty.
It was even my status. It was my status.
Yes, it was your status. And that's why I'm going to come to you as well, because you're going to tell us where that came from. Because I know you were having a conversation with the guys. I mean, it came from that. But I kind of really like that. Matty kind of represents, I guess, the younger generation that's kind of coming up. That is, it's not a question of competency anymore. It's a question of what direction they want to take, what they want to do and their view on things that have gone before them, what kind of influenced them coming up. And so basically a very relevant opinion where you can't really patronize someone saying, oh, you're only 15, what do you know anymore? Guys have done enough, so that conversation's now gone. You see what I mean? So you have to start taking man seriously. And I think we've got, you know, it's true. What's going on? Bex Land. So, Matty, we'll come to you to just give a quick brief overview, and then I guess we'll introduce everyone, and then we'll get in.
I think where the conversation started was, obviously we've got like a little Instagram group with myself, Jesse Grant, who's on here, Joey Grant, Isaiah Yard, Levi Yard, and Adrian. And I think what happened actually. I said, quick question, guys. Is there any like timeless UK gospel hits? And I was like, if there is one, like, what would it be? And then, like, obviously some of the guys were just like, yeah, there's none. And I was just like, whoa, like that could be a bit unfair. And I was thinking, do you know what? Maybe there isn't. Because it was just like a random thing. And obviously I was at the house and I was just asking my dad, I was just like, yo, like, what would you say was like your biggest like UK gospel song that you've written? And he was like reeling off songs other than Sing Unto the Lord. And I was just like, yo, you're kind of capping, innit? Like you're trying to run away from that one song, basically, innit? And then he was like, nah, but I think those other songs that I've written are a bit better. So I was like, all right, cool. You know what? Let me see what everybody else is saying. And I put it on Facebook. And I was just like, if that song comes up, then, yeah, maybe he's like running away from it or something. I don't know. So I put it up and then it came up like loads. And obviously songs, like I'm going to be 24 next week. So there's that song must have came out before I was born. I think the paraphrase. Yeah, I think the paraphrase.
Well, I think you were born. You
were born, Matt.
Yeah, you were
born.
The paraphrase album was. Is it?
It's more like 15 years, paraphrase. It's about 15 years now, isn't it?
Nah, bro.
No, it's more than 15 years for sure.
There's two paraphrases. There's two paraphrases.
No, the first one.
Yeah, the first one, like 2000.
Yeah, it's about 2000. Yeah.
1999.
Yeah, it was.
He just wanted to hear the 90s.
Yeah. When I mean I wasn't born, I mean cool, but I wasn't around. I wasn't technically around.
You weren't aware.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of what gone. And obviously, I heard it after on Bishop's album. I thought that was the that was the original until I went back and obviously, and I was just like, I was like, oh, scenes. This definitely sounds older than that. So I was like, okay, cool. So I checked the credits and whatever, and it was definitely in the 90s era. I remember that. So I was thinking, all right, cool. Let me just see what everyone's saying. And I asked my dad after, when did you write that? And he was just like, yeah, it was a thing where like we just literally wrote it in Howard Francis's house. And he only was there for like, I think he said for like 2-3 hours. But when he was there, they kind of changed the skeleton of the song because he had to catch a plane. And when he said he had to catch a plane to LA, that's when I realized, okay, yeah, it was before I was born. Because my dad wasn't doing the whole LA thing when I was alive. He was going back and forth from LA, I think like 3 years, I think 4 years before I was born, which was like 93, 92. So maybe
that's probably when they wrote it. Yeah, exactly.
Wrote it. Yeah. So I put it out there, and then people were saying, cool, singing to the Lord. And all these, I think, It Is To You, Uncle Noel's song. And obviously I was putting it back in the group, and then we was kind of like talking about it, going back and forth. I wasn't necessarily agreeing that any song is timeless from UK gospel. It's just an opinion, and I just wanted to find out what everyone thought. To be honest, I don't actually really have an opinion on the timeless song because, again, I wasn't really around them times. So it may be a song that was like crazy popular back then, that I'm not really too sure about now, and I can't really speak about that because I wasn't around then. It was going back and forth, and some people was just like, nah, I don't think there is one. But if it was going to be one, it might be this. And something, I think Isaiah said it, he had quite a fair point. He was just like, it might mean, that song might mean a lot to you and it might be timeless to you, but is it timeless on a like grand scheme of things? Is it timeless on a grand scheme of things? And I was like, yo, do you know what? That is true, you know? And I think that's where we should kind of, I don't know, it might as well go from there, bruv. Like, because really and truly, is it really timeless? What makes a timeless tune?
Exactly, that's the first question.
Yeah.
Quickly before we dive in, let's go from, I don't know how everyone's screen is like looks, but I want to go around the room, let everyone introduce themselves. So Alicia, tell us who you are, a little bit about yourself in 2 sentences, please.
Just Alicia, play drums, go to ECCI Doug Williams Church, and that's it.
Alicia said, just Alicia. You're not just in Jesus' name. You're Alicia. Matty, go for it as well.
Matty Brown. I'm a musician, 23 years old, from London. Yeah.
Ryan?
So Ryan, I'm from London, live in LA, moving to Atlanta though, soon, by the way.
Nice.
Work in music marketing, primarily that's where most of my background is, and also I'm editor of musicbiznation.com. Yeah, it's pretty much, it sums up in a sentence.
Wicked. Brian Noet.
Noel Robinson, musician, worship leader, artist, but yeah, London.
Jess?
Jesse Grant, musician, London. So you're going to get from me today, bro.
Bex?
Hi, Becky, LCGC choir director. That's it.
Becky sings as well. She's a choir director. She's from London too. Smooth.
Don't you live in Luton?
Huh?
Right. Wrong L, that, you know?
Smooth.
Brother Smooth.
Greetings and salutations. My name is Matt Hamilton. I am a bass player, musical director, choreographer, DJ. I've learned to be a barber over the last couple of weeks, so you know, hey. Anyway, I'm from London. Just here to give God the praise.
Yeah, Smooth walks with his own background music, guys.
Brilliant.
And I'm IO Ace. Same as the guys, I'm a musician, creative director. And yeah, just altogether interested in the stuff we're talking about. We're all kind of involved in the UK, both in, I guess, in a mainstream kind of setting and in a gospel kind of setting. We've all kind of done that. And what was important for myself and Matty when we were talking about what we wanted to organize were people who not just have an opinion, but I wanted to get a conversation going with people who were around at the time, probably wrote the very songs we'll be talking about or played on them. They were playing in their churches, or like their dad wrote it. And do you know what I mean? All of that kind of stuff. So we all have some grounding in what we're talking about, and we'll know what we are talking about from our youth right up to now. Noah would have been a musician, 25, 30 years ago, playing with like Gloria Gaynor and playing in the mainstream. And now he's a full-on worship leader who has written some of the songs that we're talking about. So we'll have a perspective from both sides of the fence if we're starting to talk about industry and all the rest of it. So I don't want to overtalk at all. I've written a few questions down, and I think Matty's question is probably the first one. Like, what is a timeless song? Go. What is a timeless song?
Yeah.
All right, Bex, go. What's a timeless song?
It's hard to define a timeless song if you're talking about UK gospel.
No, period. Period.
What's
a timeless song? Yeah.
A song that you could listen to now and it gasses you the same way it did the first time you heard it.
That's good.
20, 30 years ago.
Okay.
I like that answer. Yeah.
Jess?
I think timeless for me goes beyond your colour. I think it goes beyond your denomination. I think it transcends a language as well. something for me, a timeless song, like I said, translates to all people. Me personally, I can't say it's timeless if just the Black church sing it. But maybe it's timeless to me, but to, like I said to the guys in the group chat, maybe to Susan from Dorset, who only knows Brainpool. You don't know the song.
Susan
so
from Dorset is amazing.
How can we put it in a timeless category?
It's so good.
It's been like 20 to 30 years. It's not really been done.
Okay.
Sorry. That's
There's
good. That's
two sides to that, though. I think there's two sides to that. Because the history of songs always carry the story. Most people's tribe or nations, the history and all that stuff is carried in a song. So there are songs that are written in Nigeria that carry the DNA and the legacy and the heritage of Nigeria. It doesn't mean anything to me because I don't understand it, but it's been there for a long time. So I think we have to narrow it down. I think a timeless song for me is a song that translates itself in every generation. It tells a story of people at whatever stage it is. Some of our parents sang those old songs that were there before them, and we still sing them. Do you know what I mean? So I think a timeless song is carried by culture. So if it's not across the whole world, we can find songs that white folk don't know nothing about, but within a black context, whether you are in Africa, America, or whatever, whoa.
To a degree, I definitely understand where you're coming from, and I'm not saying it's not timeless to me. I just think in the context of the conversation that we had in the group chat, we wasn't saying that to us the songs are not timeless. I just think the songs that we were talking about have been bubbled within our culture. Okay. So they seem a bit bigger than they are. But I agree with you in terms of them being carried over. A lot of the songs that we're talking about to the new generation, they just don't know them unless someone like our generation carries them over from when we heard them. So unless they're being carried over, they can't be timeless.
Carries a message of something in it.
So definitely.
Yeah, I feel you. That's good from both of you guys. Ryan, what do you reckon?
I mean, just on the back of what Jesse was saying, I think I said this on Facebook, and I don't know if it was Matthew's thread or another replying to one of your comments, about confusing timelessness sometimes with scope. I think scope and popularity is one thing. But I think timelessness is in a category all by itself, which sometimes the two cross over, and they don't always. And I gave the example of I don't know if any of you remember that song, that £1 Fish song from X Factor that came out I don't know how long it was, but at the time at the time it was a big song, right? It was it was a novelty song, granted, but it was popular. It was on the charts. Warner signed it and released it. Everyone knew the song and it was popular. We can't just and it was it had expanded beyond cultures. So black folks were singing it, white folks were singing it. It was a joke song, but it was widely popular. Way more popular
than Big Shaq of today.
Yeah, right. And so way more people were singing it than most people. Like I mean, you could take the biggest UK gospel song. That song was more popular than any of them in terms of the success that it achieved, nationwide. But I don't think any of us sitting here could say that was a timeless song. Because most people have forgotten about it. You only probably remembered it when I brought it up. Whereas you take a song like, and I'm not saying it because he's here, because I've mentioned this before, but Noah Robinson's Rain, right? Now that song didn't achieve half as much popularity and success as £1 Fish did, but you can sing that song in churches today, and people still engage with it, in a meaningful way in the moment of worship that they did when he first started singing it, how many ever years ago? And so I think we have to separate. I think we have to separate the idea of popularity and transcending cultures with timelessness, because timelessness for me is about, like I think Jesse said, transcending generations. Popularity may transcend cultures. Sometimes the two don't always cross paths, but oftentimes they will. So I think we have to first make that distinction in order to really categorize what timelessness is.
I hear you. I have opinions on all this, but I'll go after Smooth.
I mean, for me, timeless is just, as I think it's been said already, just transcends through different generations. Whatever song it is, people can just connect to it. You know what I mean? So a lot of people then therefore want to make it newer, so they might remix it and put a different swing on it, or different concept. But it just emphasizes the timelessness of the song.
Alicia, thanks, Smooth.
So as we was just talking, I was just thinking about Teddy Riley and Babyface for some reason. You know, the proof is in the pudding. They broke the internet because they did timeless music. And you know, white, black, different ages, young, old. I was just thinking about their music. And like everybody else said, it if it can still gas you, it's timeless. It will forever go on. Do you know what I'm saying? It's just Michael Jackson's music, timeless.
Yeah.
Bob Marley's music still does something to me. Timeless. It just does something. I don't know. I can't put my finger on it.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah.
Can I say something?
Yep.
Cool. So this is kind of like my ethos of the whole thing here. Just like we're all part of a certain community. Obviously all from different backgrounds, but majority like African Caribbean. Yeah. And it's like me and Isaiah's relationship. Yeah. We actually never, Isaiah Yard, for everyone that doesn't know who he is in here, he's one of my close friends. But it's like we never actually met until we were 18. But conversations, my dad would be like, yeah, I've been to Isaiah's house. The year that his mum and dad bought the house. And I was like, rah, well, how come me and Iz didn't really meet when we were younger? It's just like, I don't know, but me and Uncle Steve, his dad's always been friends. So I'm just basically saying that to say we have like some sort of community. Like my dad would tell me stories about Ryan's dad. Like back in the day, they were like going around the country playing keys and like playing Hammond or whatever. And then he would tell me stories about Andrew Smith, and then it will link to Jesse's dad and Jesse's granddad with my granddad. So it's just like, wow, we actually have a community within itself. And then I'll go on YouTube, see people get ready, and be like, wow, that's Uncle No. Like, swear that Uncle No, like playing that. I had no clue. So it's bigger than people. It's bigger than what people think in my generation what it is, because there's actually years of like background. So this legacy. So this is what I'm coming to say. Yeah, Teddy Riley and Babyface, they have their community. Like they're from America. There was a part of the whole R&B community, LaFace Records, the whole New Jack Swing thing. They created something. We're slightly alike, but it's just that our community is nowhere near as big as theirs. And I was saying to my friends, I feel like in this community, it can only get to a certain degree, sadly, because there's not many of us. But there are some artists that break out of that, like Uncle No. Not just saying that because he's in there, but obviously that's just a bait one. Uncle No's kind of broken out of just our community and kind of gone into other communities and doing well. But is it really fair to say, like what I said, if we have a timeless song or not? Because I bet you that if there were like 10 songs written by other people the exact same way, played the same way on their album, it will be deemed as timeless because they're a part of a wider community. And our area is just basically conditioned to popularity and success. Do you know what I mean? Like,
so are you saying that I shouldn't have used Teddy Riley and Babyface as an example?
Oh no! It's perfect. Yeah.
Great example.
No, perfect example, because it's like I was talking to my dad because I found an interview of him on YouTube, and he was like, he was on Channel 4 talking about an LCGC record that he just produced. So I was like, out of curiosity, what was it? And he was like, oh yeah, the one with the fishes. I forgot what it's called. Like, call him, do my research. See the one with the fishes. I listened to the songs and I was just like, yo, some of them are really good, you know? Yeah. I was like, why have I never heard of it? But if we was a part of a bigger community, my dad would be online like, yeah, drop in this is what and everyone would be like, oh, I remember that. But there's not many.
It's a bigger community, you know. I think that our community is really fragmented.
What do you mean by that?
Our community, socially, we've had, we're just coming out of, I think you're the first generation that really has broken out of what we call denominational barriers.
Okay.
So there's a psychology, not psychology, but a whole thing about what happened back in the day.
The psychology.
When I started playing, you got to understand, I was part of Prophecy. Prophecy had nothing to do with Kojic, nothing to do with any other thing apart from Prophecy. We had our own world going on. Now, when I broke out, I'll just give you an example of how deep it was. I was the London music director and choir director. Everybody was under me. When I decided that I was going to play for John Francis, hear me, people get ready. I lost every one of my positions. They sacked me from our back bench in my own church. Wow. I did not go and do nothing wrong apart from go, I'm playing. As far as they are concerned, why are you going out there? Right. You understand what we're faced with now? Yeah. So we had songs in our community that nobody would have heard. You get what now we're dealing with past where I had nothing to do with Kojic. I didn't know nothing about Kojic because we were in our own world. It's only when I said I'm gonna do this John Francis thing. And my bishop said, I'm not allowing you to play for him.
Yeah.
I'm not allowing you to play for LCGC because they're worldly, right? When I started doing that, that's how deep it was. So we didn't have what we have now, where there's openness. But I do believe that one of the things about a timeless song is about the people that carry it, not the people that write it necessarily,
100%.
but the people that are willing to carry that song. Because as long as you carry that song, the longest carrying song, I think the greatest song is a Happy Day, Happy Birthday.
Yeah.
Happy birthday to you. Everybody sings that in every language because people carry it.
Yeah.
So one of the things that you're saying, Matty, you're highlighting something that's so important, but we've just broken out denominations.
And I was just going to say to you, do you really think we have broken out denominations?
Well, we'll come to that after. Let's come to that after. No, that's good. That's good.
The byproduct of it is, if it's not broken out denomination, then there must be a kind of self-hate about. Maybe it's a strong word.
No, I don't think it is. It's not.
You understand? It's a strong word. We as black people, especially in the UK, we have a self-hate about success. So people see what Matty's doing now and go, I don't like him. Or they'll see what Io was doing, I don't like him. Or they'll see what I don't like him. So whatever he does, I don't rate it. And what we've done, we've been indoctrinated by a US system, a US culture that always said that, well, what we do is better than what you do. Or we've said that what you do is better. Even when they've come with rubbish, we've gone, this is amazing. You're better than us. Yeah. Right? Or this song is amazing. Some rubbish songs that have been written and we've gone, yeah. When we've got amazing writers and we've gone,
we have.
Nah.
No. Let me just interject real quick, right? I wanted to pick up something before we run too far off because this is perfect. I knew the conversation was going to go here because it's the only one way it can go. But let me say something. Jesse made a great point, right, about timelessness to him. And he mentioned Susie and Dorset, right? And he said it might be timeless to him, but if Susie and Dorset, and the thing is, Bex can attest to this, Noel can. I know Susie and Dorset because those places where LCGC be doing their gigs and things like that. So we meet those people, we bring our music to them, etc., etc. Anyway, so I know who he's talking about. What I wanted to say was this. I find it really interesting, right? Because I agree. I think we have amazing songs. I could name 5 of them in there that I think should be timeless. Rob, I see you. Huh. Minister Rob. I think we have timeless songs, right? But I think what has happened is that we haven't had the vehicle, right? I can go back to the 80s, right? And I can pick out a song for you, right? Shine, Jesus, Shine. You mentioned Graham Kendrick.
Yeah, I was in his band.
Exactly. No one knows Graham Kendrick. Exactly. Graham Kendrick. All of us know Shine, Jesus, Shine. Ask ourselves why though. It was in Songs of Fellowship. It was what Noah was saying. It was carried. So I believe that there are songs that I can name you right now that would be as timeless as said song if they had the vehicle. Now the next question, which is where we were basically going, is why did they not have the vehicle? I'm going to drop a song into the mix right now, right? That I think would bang now the way it banged in the 90s. Possibly in the 80s. I'm not totally sure when it was written. I think it's early 90s. You Are My Savior.
Yeah. 90, yeah.
Amazing song.
No.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember. I'm going to drop a little bit of history on the peeps, right? We've got 2 minutes. We're going to come off and come straight back on. When I did the BBC Proms show, right?
Yep.
What that was about showcasing the UK gospel, but not in the way the BBC usually do it, where they make us sing our Happy Day and clappy and do outtakes. I decided we're not singing that, and everybody's going to represent their own artistry and show people actually what's going on in British gospel, right? So when I came to Noel, I said, "You're singing You Are My Savior." Noel said, "No." He said, "I'm not singing that because that's where I was." And Noel didn't want to sing it. And I want to come to you afterwards, Noel. Don't forget this about why that is your stance. Because I think I saw you say that on Facebook the other day. I personally, it's something I've always wanted to talk to you about. Because I don't agree with it, but I think it needs dissecting. You Are My Savior is a song that if we played it now, it would bang.
Yeah.
Yep.
100%, right? So I think that whole kind of thought process where it's like, I don't want to carry kind of the old into the new is probably the reason that song itself isn't timeless. Because it's got all the minerals to be timeless.
The only thing is that I think that, I mean, this is some of the truth. That You Are My Savior album, the Otasis album, sold about 12,000 copies. Right, it's a huge, honestly, huge impact. It was a song just before Power Praise, okay? Because it was a song that actually my church carried it, Prophecy carried it, the New Testament carried it, and actually it was a song that we could identify with as British, as a new song that wasn't American. It was like, hey, it had a vibe on it, and we were doing the stuff. Now, the reason why I didn't want to sing it, just to mention it, right, was that I've done since that time 6 albums, right? And every album I've done, I've got new songs on it. And my one thought is this: even now at my age, I'm going to cut another album, and it's going to be all new songs. The last album I did, practically all new songs. Why? Because we don't have the depth of songs. So I'm coming from the depth of song, and artists with the depth of song. Because I know Stevie's going to do his main hits, but then he has to bring something new. I never want to be caught in that until I've done 10 albums, right? So for me, it's like when we did Garment of Praise, and you were on that part of that recording. Man, them songs are banging to me when I listen back to them, but I have to move on as the artist. I have to keep reinventing myself. I'm 50 odd, so I have to keep reinventing myself, and I can't get trapped in. That's just my personal thing.
I hear you, right? But I was going to say, no, I hear you, right? But it's funny that P Key and Hez went the other day, right? Because that's really poignant. Because I think what happened to, if you look at P Key, right? He's probably, I can name 7 albums that the song I Do Worship is on.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Even though he was bringing out new music, he made sure that song is going to be timeless because it was on every single album. Even if you change a couple chords here, got Tone to sing on it there, got this one sing on there, he sang it and sang it and sang it. And I feel like that's why now you can't really say P Key's name without bursting into that chorus. Do you get what I mean?
But I feel like that. I feel like that.
Go, Matty.
No, I feel what you're saying, and you actually made a really valid point about that. But I know that I had to make a conscious change, even in music style. Even in music style, because of where I was going. So there's a lot of factors in it. Why I didn't bring You Are My Savior forward. I actually did a concert like 3 years ago at Fearful Hall. I think it was 3 or 4 years ago at Fearful Hall, and I started that song. As soon as I started it, the whole audience, it was like 1,200 people. They went mad, and I was like, "Oh my God!" I mean, I wasn't even going to sing it. I just did a little "You Are My Savior." So I do know that it impacted a particular generation, and maybe the newer generation doesn't know it in that way. So again,
I didn't know that. You know,
something that made sense to me. You know.
Yeah.
Matty, you were going to say something. Please jump in.
No, I was saying, Oh, what was I gonna say? Nah, it's cool, it's all good. But I was gonna say I didn't actually know that song until I actually checked it, and I was like, right, it's a good, amazing song, man.
Yeah. Jess, what do you think? What's your opinion?
I think our generation has been quite, and maybe the generation just before me, has been quite lazy in regards to those songs. So the reason why Matty's generation don't know the songs that they should know, like You Are My Savior, or they don't get the respect that they deserve, is because we haven't carried them over. We kind of got embraced into this Hillsong culture, which then we kind of left all of those songs behind. And then, and like Noah said, unless it was American, and it was rubbish, but we just thought it was American, we just jumped on that. So even from our conversation with Matt, one of the things I said is, I think it's definitely our duty to now protect like Rain, for example, because I feel like when Noel gets tired and he doesn't want to sing that song no more, someone else should be singing that. Because one of the things I noticed is if when we typed in like a Hillsong track on iTunes, there was 50 different versions, 50 different artists who recorded that song. Who carried it. But when Rain came out, there's only like, let's say, I know there's a new version now, but there was only like his version on there. And then it's like, then we say, oh, it's not timeless, but the responsibility is on the artists to carry the songs over. So
I personally feel like Rain is a timeless hit. I think it's a timeless song.
And this is what I was saying in the chat as well. I wasn't saying to me that song is not a timeless song. Please, let me make that clear. I love that song. No, and I'm not just saying that because he's in the room. I actually love that song. But in 30 years' time, I want people to still love that song the same way I love that song. But unless we carry it over, I don't know what's going to happen to that song in 30 years' time. Because the culture right now is, if it's American and it's hot, that's what we take over. But if it's British and it's a classic to us, unless the next generation, my generation, the generation before me, embrace it properly, I don't know, and I honestly don't know what's going to happen to that song.
I love that, Jesse. I love that.
Can I say something?
Go on, Alicia. Alicia and then Ryan.
It's a little plug here. It wasn't just Noel's song though, was it, Rain? It's you and Donna Okodu's, isn't it?
Yeah, me and Donna, yeah.
I just thought I'd put that in there.
Yeah, no doubt. We're just talking on an artistry thing. Noel was the front guy. Innit?
I know, but I'm just saying. You know,
I didn't know that. That's good.
It's good. It's good to mention that. It's good to mention that.
Yeah.
No, I think I'm hearing what everyone's saying, and I think I haven't heard anyone make a point that I don't agree with so far. But I think I wonder if, because based on what Jesse was saying in regards to like having to carry those songs over and you know that responsibility to carry the songs over to the next generation, if we have to do so much work in order to for that to happen, does that indicate that something is wrong, right? Because I feel like in order to when that happens in the States, like I don't know, a timeless hit in the States could be I could pick any Fred Hammond's Blessed or something like that, right? They didn't have to work hard to push that song beyond generations, right? It kind of happened naturally. So the conversation that we're having here is that, okay, cool, we have songs that are good when it comes to quality, but we don't have a system in place to allow those songs to carry on. And I actually kind of want to ask Noel something, because back, I mean, you've been around longer than anyone in the room, so you've seen things come, you've seen things go. When it was a time like songs like "It Is to You" and "Sing Unto the Lord" and "You Are My Savior," when those songs were kind of like becoming widespread in churches, what was different then that is not in place now?
Interesting.
That allowed those songs to become so widespread in churches where that culture doesn't seem to be existing anymore. So, just in your opinion, what
I mean, there's two aspects, because there's some things we're not. There's a social aspect of what we call how a song travels, and there's also the mechanical side of it in terms of registration, recording, or whatever. Somebody alluded to the fact that Blessed Fred Hammond song has been recorded by lots of other people. Mm-hmm. Well, not too many people actually, because one of the things about the Black church consciousness is that we're very artist driven and not as song driven as we'd like to think we are, because our songs are strictly attached to artists. So Kirk Franklin sang "Smile," okay? If somebody else sings it, it's never as good as Kirk Franklin. But you go on YouTube and listen to Oceans, There's about 400 versions of it. Let me give you an example. Okay, Our God is Great, written by Matt Redman and another couple of guys. That song, if you go to PRS MCV, it's been recorded by other people at least 600 times.
Wow.
From the original.
Yeah.
Yeah. So because church lends itself to quote unquote a karaoke type scenario. That's really cheapening it, really. But actually, our worship scenario is that we're all trying songs to sing. It would be recorded and sung so many times. Whereas with us, I sing Rain. Donna doesn't sing it that much, right? Right, because the mentality is that, well, actually, it's your song. And it's like, no, but it's our song. So how many people have recorded it? It's come to life again because a white worship leader in America called Leland, who's of a generation that is your generation, right? He's under 30 or just 30. He decided to cover the song. But the beautiful thing, he decided to invite me to cover the song. Now the song got a new lease of life in the whole white marketplace. So, and people don't even think I wrote it, but I'm just giving you what happens with us as people over the years. A great song comes out, Power Praise came out, and everybody was willing to sing those songs on their church stage.
But you know,
that's what caused a song to spread. When Bishop Francis opened his mouth and said, "Sing unto the Lord a new song," everybody goes, "That's a feeder church. That's a feeder." Ruach was a feeder church for the Black Caribbean church. Now the issue we got now is that Caribbean churches are no longer feeder churches for songs. You got the big African churches like KICC, where everybody comes to their conferences, where you got the Redeemed movement, where so people hear the songs at the prayer nights and go, "Wow, who's that song?" Blah, 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 blah. Well, we need to bring it back to our church. This is what's missing. The vehicle is missing, especially from the Caribbean context, where we are not singing our own songs.
I must say, me as a 23-year-old Caribbean, Christian, I'm very, very, very disappointed at the generations before me, how they've segregated, and it's the way it's split up. It's so crazy. It's like
that's denominations. That's the thing.
And that's why I asked you before. Has it really been split up? Because it doesn't really seem
to be fair for us, man, it hasn't, because some musicians can't even play at another church unless you're a part.
It's ridiculous. Even to bring Isaiah and Levi to play at my youth convention 4 or 5 years ago, it was a thing where they're not from culture, and it had to take my grandma to be like, "No, excuse me, they play at our church."
But this is what denomination. It's like slavery. Slavery had the same effect in terms, in America, kind of thing. But that's what I grew up under. Your dad grew up under the same thing. Many of your parents, right? I didn't meet like Ryan's dad until like I met Bishop Francis, and I had to take that stance to get kicked out of my music post at church. When I started playing for Graham Kendrick, they were like, "What are you doing? Why are you playing for this white man? What's going on?" I mean, this is what I had to deal with. So let alone when I put my band together and everybody's from a different church, and pastor was saying to me, "Why are you using my singers? Get your own." And I'm like, whoa, what's going on? So this is some of the byproduct of that. So Ryan, what you've asked is a good question, because the system has changed, but it's changed in a different way. Where now all of us in here as Caribbean church, and I know IO but IO, you've always been part of the system anyway from day dot. But the issue has been that there's a new power that's in focus now. So what you do, unless you get it into that marketplace, guess what? It stays where you are.
Interesting. All right, so Smooth, you there? Smooth's not there. All right, so I have a question. You muted me. All right, cool. So I was going to say something, right? You're with us, yeah?
Yeah, I didn't want to disturb with the noise.
Yeah, no, it's cool. So what's your thoughts on what's being said so far? So I've got a question coming after I come to Smooth, but just in terms of like, what's your perspective in terms of when you were growing up, the songs that you guys were playing in your church over in South, like you, Ginge, and your dad and stuff, because I know your dad's a pastor. What kind of songs did you guys kind of hold on to? What kind of songs reached you were you singing songs anyway, or is it when you kind of, as a musician, kind of came and crossed over into other people's churches, or saw Noel at a conference or something like that, where you kind of picked those songs? Like, how did you guys kind of introduce new music into your church?
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, a lot of it growing up was mainly refrains. They were singing choruses, like songs with verses that weren't from the Pentecostal hymnal were not sung at my church. So it was a very, very different and strict thing. Then starting to grow up and then diversify and I think my first gig outside of my church was with Ecclesia. And so I went up to Northampton New T, and that was the first time I was ever exposed to anything other than, because my church is called JC, Church of Our Lord Jesus Christ, Apostolic. So it was nothing. We didn't have anything to do, like kind of similar sort of story as Noel. We wouldn't have anything to do with other churches, and so I didn't get exposed to Noel's music until, I think, the first time I saw Noel was when I was allowed to go to Kirk Franklin, I believe. I think it was Kirk Franklin that he opened up. That was the first time I'd ever been exposed to a British gospel. So I kind of came on late in my life, so to speak, but early in terms of compared to where we are now. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I was only exposed by being a musician.
So I guess what you're saying, it kind of reinforces what the guys were saying about the denominational barriers meant that we weren't even hearing the songs. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, at all.
Right, so Bex, I have a question for you, yeah? Are you still at Prophecy now?
Yeah, still there.
All right, so let me ask you a question.
She likes me.
Right? What is being sung in Prophecy now? What songs are you singing? Are you singing songs from the history? Are you singing songs that are more, I guess, you guys know what I mean by this, like black orientated, like songs we sang in the 90s? Or is Prophecy now singing Oceans? Is Prophecy now singing songs written by Matt Redman, etc.? Disclaimer, there's nothing wrong with that. We're all part of one body.
You know what? At my church,
they're
running the Hillsong route. Every now and again, our head worship leader, he's like, we're gonna go back, because I go to Wembley. So my church, we played funk. It was just funk. It was like, just put some Jesus lyrics in there, but everything was groovy. So when I used to go to other churches, I was like, what's this dry thing? What's this pajiki? Because we weren't really in the chicky thing. We were in this, like, it was like hip hop. We used to, anyway. But then the convention, and for a long while, our national convention, national convention was very much Hillsongy-ish, blah, blah, blah. But
that's after I left, innit?
Yeah. Basically. But Karen's sister, Kim Samuels, I've got to say in a second. Kim Samuels, I say the last 4 or 5 years, especially with the national choir, she's been going back, like songs that you're like, Jesus, I ain't heard this since I was 5. Do you know what I mean? She's back, old Crouch, old, and then the praise and worship team, they kind of balance it out. So they'll have a couple of the, you know, Jesus, you're a tree where the leaves, blah, 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 blah. And then you've got, the old school stuff. Do you know what I mean? So they kind of balance it out.
Yeah. No, it's good.
Balance it out a little bit, only a little bit, not as much as I like, but I think I just come from a generation where I just want to hear what I grew up on.
Okay, thanks, Beck. So I have a question for everyone, right? And jump in on this, right? And I'm just going to ask the question. So, are the same socio-economic factors that are at play with everything else that affects us as Black people in life? So, the kind of social constructs of the world, slavery's already been mentioned, but you know what I mean? Not to go back to slavery, but the effects of slavery, however many years on, in terms of Black people going for jobs, Black people applying for loans, etc. The way that we look on ourselves as people, these are all the socio-economic factors, is what I'm talking about. Are they all at play within this? What we're talking about?
When you say this, you mean
what we're talking about. So, for instance, the way Noel referred earlier to a kind of self-hate, which seems strong as a term, but I think is actually very relevant, because we're all talking here, and really and truly, when we think about it, we're all from different backgrounds, all from different denominations and stuff, and music brought us together. So fundamentally, none of us have a problem with singing each other's songs and all the rest of it. And we're here having to have this conversation because for whatever reason, it hasn't been brought forward. Now, I want to explore why that is. I personally I've got to this point in my life as a mid-30s black man who now has children and is in the position where I am applying for jobs and all this kind of stuff and money and trying to make moves and all that kind of stuff. And I really realize what my parents are talking about, how difficult it is as a black person. I really see the things that people are talking about over the years, right? So I'm in a place where I now refuse to blame the victim for how things are, because really and truly as black people, I feel like we're really reacting to all of the stuff we've been through, and people react at different places and do different things differently. Do you see what I mean? So I think what I'm asking is, all the stuff that we're talking about is as a result, I think, of history, black people's history. Yeah. How much of it do you think has a part to play in why we're having to have this conversation? I think we can all agree that there have been songs worthy of timelessness.
I think
go for it.
As I said as well before, like I feel so disappointed in the way it was, just the way the community's been, like just the infrastructure of it. And I think obviously that does come down to just the mentality that's been inherited. I feel like I've noticed as well with people like us, black people, most black people can't see another man do well, or they like to see people do well, but they don't like to necessarily see people do better than them. It's like it's cool, we're all cool, but as soon as you start doing better than them, it's just like then there's an issue. So it's like, in our community, who would you say are the key holders, or like the people that hold everyone together, and are they all friends?
You know what, Matthew? I think you make a really good point, because you make a good point, because I was about to say something similar to what you're saying, because I think part of the issue is that, and I don't know how this sound will come across, but I think for the most part, a lot of us don't respect each other.
Absolutely,
and that's what I'm basically trying to say. Yeah,
and so I think because we don't respect each other, that plays a part. Okay, I'll give you an example. Let's say let's say Noel's in the room, so I'll use Noel. Let's say you don't like Noel, right? You know, you might decide as an MD or as a worship leader, I'm not going to sing these songs in my church, you know, because I don't like him, right? Just because I mean, for whatever reason that might be, or I don't respect him, or whatever it is. You know, we look at, you know, your Donald Lawrence's and your Freds and whatever, and because of that sort of distance and accomplishments, you know, naturally we just have this respect and admiration for them because, you know, they've done all this stuff and whatever, but we don't really care for, you know, celebrating the accomplishments within our own communities. And I think part of that is to do with that, you know, I think there's a lot of familiarity with each other. And I think part of that I think that's almost become a bit of a problem, because, you know, everyone's so reachable and so kind of connected. Sometimes it makes people feel like, oh, well, you know, like, you know, they might be doing well, but I can just pick up the phone and give them a call. Like, they're not really, you know what I mean? Like,
I will go on social media and see men like my age be calling my dad and uncle no bro. I'm like, yo.
Yeah, stuff like that. No,
like,
what?
They're
real.
Like, they're not your bro. Like, bro, like calling you bro. Like, yes, bro, you good, right, bro. I'm like,
it's uncle to you. He's your mate.
Where is your reverence? Where's your reverence?
Yeah, it's like.
I think outside of that, what Ryan touched on something, and I know I alluded to this self-hate thing, and I'm going to show you something that I've seen over the last 30 years, is that we, especially within the black church context, find it very difficult to celebrate those closest to us.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And so I'm on this journey for the last 10 years, right, of what I'm doing, and I'm doing what I do. Some people celebrate me, some people don't celebrate me. That's neither here nor there, because I know my assignment, and my assignment is worked out by the people that feed me in some ways. You know, like LCGC. LCGC doesn't have to go and play at a church. The reason why, because over the years, and I'll give you that as an example, there was a season in LCGC's life, and you know, you guys have been a part of it, where most of the musicians within the black church community began to disrespect it. Ayo, you know what I'm talking about? Right? You were there. They began to disrespect what Basil was doing for whatever reason, whether they were getting paid or not getting paid or whatever. All these kind of things, a familiar thing, and they began to disrespect it. So the problem happened that I got asked to do it, right? Now I had the same issue with everybody else. So I came into LCGC, and I'm looking around going, there's me, John Fisher and Tony Williams. I'm just giving you an example. And we're just, at first, we're just towing the line. We're just playing the notes going, yeah, okay, it's a gig, because we're going to get paid at it. And one day it dawned on me that why don't I actually put an emphasis on building another man's ministry? Building another man's thing like I would want somebody to build my thing. And what happened is that I was around at the time, and I'll tell you what happened. I sat with Basil and I said, Basil, how do you want your songs to sound? And he started talking about the music that influenced him. I said, John and Tony, we are going to do this music, what Basil wants. In actual fact, every riff that he wants in a song, we're going to put it in. We're not going to rubbish him because he's not as good as Howard or Nicky on keyboards. We are going to do it. The second thing I did was that Basil needed help with keyboards. And I said to Basil, bring Ayo on board. Right? Now, this is what happened. It was like, nah, Ayo's not good. I'm saying every sound check, I'm asking that young man to come and play keyboards when you're off doing something. He can play the songs. Do you remember Ayo?
Yeah, I was there.
He was singing tenor in the choir, bro. Right? And I said, make the young boy come and play behind you.
Right. Because that's right, humble beginning to start as a tennis, right?
Right, I'm being real.
Yeah,
right?
Because,
and I'll tell you what happened. This is how deep it was. Basil didn't even believe me until I said, Ayo, come and play for me. And when Basil saw you playing, you and Guzzy playing for me, he was like, all right, yeah, Ayo, yeah, he's my boy. And I'm like going, yeah, Chase. But I'm just saying, right? The reason why is because there's a generational thing that even me as older guys have not. When we was your age, we were flying high, you know, bruv. But we're not willing to give you the release, Michael. When we was your age, younger, that's why when you guys came along and I said, it's not. I wasn't looking for cheap musicians. I was going, give these guys a chance to grow, right, and build another man's thing. But most of us are like, no, we'll build secular. Hear me? We'll build secular and rubbish the gospel because the secularists paid you to be there. And I go, there has to be something that's a legacy, that's spiritual with you, that says, you know what? If I don't grab hold of my thing that's been given to me, then what happens is that it doesn't happen. It's not going to happen. So I say, just, you know, I'm summing it up like that this self-hate thing goes to our songs. There's been some amazing songs, right? But if you put on the bottom of the song, written by Matty Brown, they go, no, it can't be any good. Or it's written by Ryan. It can't be any good.
Jump in, Matty, jump in.
This is what I was saying. It goes back to, I don't want to necessarily say the key holders. I just don't, again, I think that
there ain't no key holders.
No, I could throw away the key holders, but the people that were there before and the people that were building this thing, you guys don't get along, and it triples down generations, and that whole mentality, there's no togetherness. I can't think of two like organizations or churches that will link together and help. It's like, say, like, cool, let's just say Tab Worship and Ruach. They would never do an album together.